Hello, everybody, and welcome into this episode of the Command Point Podcast, the 69th episode of the Command Point Podcast. It's not actually, but I'm just going to say that every time until it is, and then I'll let you guys know. My name's Ryan. Today I'm here with my co-host Shane. Shane, how's it going?
It's going. What episode is it?
I actually don't know.
Gotta be like
It's
I don't
upper
know.
30s.
I
It's
have
got to
no
be a
30 something,
it might be like
37.
it might even be 40. It might even be
I
40.
I think it's 37, 38 or 37, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Anyways, Shane, what are we
It
talking
is.
about? What are we talking about
Well,
today?
quite a few things. I mean, it's first of all, Saturday, October 30th, the night before Halloween. I'm excited for Halloween. Not that I'm doing anything for it, but
Yeah, me too. But you know what I'm a bigger fan of recently?
what's
I'm a
that?
bigger fan of Orktober in general.
Yeah, we're almost at the end of it.
I
And we haven't
know.
even talked really about orcs, but as far as Kill Team goes, I mean, it has been a pretty good month for orcs, I guess. I
Yeah,
mean, they're doing good.
yeah, they're rolling right now.
Let's get started with orc talk then, because I mean, we're kind of saving it all till the end of the month. We're just gonna put it all out there right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically, all of our orc thoughts in this new edition. How do you want to start?
I think that we should probably start off with just talking about probably the Warhammer World Kill Team tournament that happened. Because holy crap, Ork Kommandos are popping off right now.
Yeah, what was it, like top 5 or top 4? It was all
I believe it was the top four were all Ork Commando players.
that's something. I mean, first of all, I understand that they like definitely this was the plan from the start, but it's a total shame that that tournament was only 3 rounds
Yeah, I
because
saw that.
there was almost 40 players there.
Yeah, that
So
did not make much sense to me as to why it was only three.
yeah, so you had like 4 or 5 players undefeated at the end, but you know, it's only one's going to be first place.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a bummer. I mean, I think they should have seen that coming. I don't know how far ahead they set the rounds and like the time for, but the first 2 Warhammer World Kill Team events have had about 30, like mid to high 30s, but
Yeah.
definitely not like 3-round RTT style. But yeah, I mean, they did really well.
hmm I wish I could have
They,
gone. I
oh
wish
yeah,
it wasn't on the other side of the world.
yeah, the other opposite side of the Atlantic for us. But they dominated the whole tournament. I don't know how many custodies were there. I
I
wanna
perused the list, just gave it a quick glance. I didn't see any.
really?
Yeah, which was like super weird to me. It's like I know they got nerfed, but like come on. They didn't get nerfed that hard.
Warhammer World, so of course 3 rounds. So first, second, third, and fourth were all commandos.
Fifth was like
And
Harlequins or something, right?
fifth was Forge World. And I'm looking okay, there's a Talons here at 17th who got a win, a tie, and a loss. I think that's the only Talons I'm seeing on here. So one
Yeah.
Talon out of 36 players, and the top 4 were all commandos. Those were the only undefeated players, were the people playing commandos.
Interesting.
Um, although technically the guy in 5th place was undefeated, but he didn't win all his games. He tied in the second round and then won the other 2. So
Mm.
he never lost. Commandos are definitely worth talking about because I did a Patreon post recently. This is a public episode. Our most recent episode was on Patreon. So if you're listening to this and you enjoy the podcast, shout out to our Patreon pod. It's every other episode. But I did a post on Patreon, just a written post talking about some of the stronger factions right now, other than Talons. And one of the ones I brought up was Commandos. And honestly, and then I did the tier list, which everybody saw. We'll talk about that later, but I had them at the top of B tier. So I mean, I thought that they were really good, but over the last week or so, I think I've been underrating them a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, I would say so. A few people have figured out a couple of neat tricks with this faction, and it's pretty crazy stuff, and obviously tournament winning.
For starters, there's the one thing that people pretty much called out before the game was even out, when they were just showing like the Warhammer community articles, and the Grot being able to fly across the map and then get that interloper secondary
Yeah.
tech up. I mean, it's just every time I watched it, it's just the Grot teleports to your
Yep.
board edge and just scores 2 victory points, like right there, max secondary. Um,
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
yeah,
Crazy powerful.
lots of
Um,
counterplay, lots of
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, dude. It's so much counterplay against that for sure. Um, what I actually like doing with him, and we'll talk about more about how I've been playing the commandos, but I like just teleporting him around the board and just picking up primary objectives for me.
yeah.
Because it, and then like if I do wind up taking that as one of the tac ops, just shoving him off the board, but like keeping him on and making him like work, getting the most out of him before just throwing him away.
I mean, what's nice is he is so small that you can like hide him behind smaller like barricades and stuff like that.
Yeah, and even then, he has that rule where he's always treated as having conceal, including like regarding things like vantage points. So kind
Uh,
of what the gene stealers have. So like even then, like he doesn't have to be totally obscured, but he's like super small to begin with.
that I mean, with the interloper stuff, because that is so free, and I
Hmm.
wonder if that's something they should take a look at. Just because I mean, like it is so like there's nothing you can do about it
Yeah,
as the opposing player.
yeah, it's like a 99 percenter, I would say. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, that whole interaction, I hope Games Workshop would take a look at because that's way too powerful in my opinion.
And as strong as it is, I don't even think it's their strongest thing.
What do
Like,
you think is their strongest thing? Is
well,
it
I
the
know
bomb
you're
squig?
yeah, no, it's not the box quick. Um, it's and I know you're on tune with this, but the dynamite stuff that you can do.
Yeah.
So the dynamite, it's a 4 equipment point piece that you can take, I think, and
Yeah.
it's one of those super grenades that has unst- unstable. Is that the name of it? What's the
Yeah,
name of that?
it's pretty crazy. I'll just read off the stats for it right now. So, it's a ranged weapon, obviously. 4 attacks, ballistic skill 3, damage 5 and 6, range 6 inches, blast 2 inches, AP 1, indirect, unwieldy, limited.
Yeah,
So
unwieldy. That's what it is.
yeah.
So you look at that and you think, oh yeah, well, unwieldy. How often are you ever going to get to use this? Because it costs 2 APL to even
Hmm.
fire it. With like, first of all, the knob can give a guy an APL. The comms boy
Yep.
can give a guy an APL. So that's 2 models potentially right there that can have 3 APL. Do commandos can they take the boss pole too?
No, I don't
They
see
can.
the boss
Okay,
pole on the list. I think that's just
that's
for
just green
greenskins.
skin.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So, but still, um, that's a lot of ways to get to 3 APL, but where it gets
Hmm.
really stupid is with the DACA boy. His DACA dash, he gets a free shoot and a free dash action in any order. So with unwieldy, the wording on it is just it adds 1 to the APL cost for a shoot attack with that weapon. So
That's
with the
right.
DACA dash, it goes from 0 plus 1. So the DACA dash, if you're using dynamite, just costs 1. Well, I guess it costs 2 because the DACA dash is 1. But it's if you give that guy 3 APL and he's got dynamite, like he can move and then dash and then throw this grenade, which is like you said, it's AP1, it's like damage 5-6, it's got blast too.
Yeah.
And it's got like that's basically a 15-inch threat range and it's indirect, so you can't like cover doesn't really matter.
Yep. Exactly.
You can't hide from it. That's one of the stupidest things about the faction. I think that's probably the dumbest thing about the faction. And I found
Yeah.
out about this before I heard about the guy that won Warhammer World because he made a video, and it turns out he was doing that, and it doesn't surprise me at all. Of
Yeah.
course, it's from listening to his video, he sounds like a really good player. But that dynamite stuff, I feel like Dakadash probably should only work with the Shuda or
Yeah,
something.
I would think so too.
Yeah, anything within 15 inches of the Daka boy. is in danger of
Just getting
basically being,
one-shotted. Like,
yeah, and with blast, so you can one shot multiple things. Yeah, and I mean, how do you play against that? Like, just imagine if you're like a melee team, like your charge range is basically 9 inches. You have an 8 inch charge, so you can charge things 9 inches away. You can sit and conceal and like hide and cover, but this guy, he has indirect, so he doesn't care.
yeah,
Like once you're within charge range, you've already been in dynamite range for like ever. I just don't even know. And at that part, I wonder if because like rules is written, that's totally legal.
yeah,
Not sure if that was the, the intention or what they had in mind, but people have found the stuff, and it's a ridiculously strong faction.
yeah. I love it. I love the dynamite. I love the interaction. I hope it doesn't last that long. At least with the Daka boy specifically, the Daka dash. It's got to apply just to his Daka Shuda and no sort of
Yeah.
like equipment or anything, because that's pretty ridiculous. So yeah, that's kind of like the big tactic that you're seeing right now. That and the Commando Grot. Really, those are kind of the two standouts. Um,
And they deploys. They have amazing ploys. Like their shooting ploys
yeah,
are so good,
let's talk
and
about the ploys. Before we even get to like the shooting and the fighting ploys, I'm just gonna skip straight ahead into tactical ploys, specifically the sneaky get. This ploy is amazing. If you have the right sort of like terrain setup. So this is Sneaky Get for 1 CP. Use this tactical ploy in the setup operative step of the mission sequence. Select one friendly commando operative, and that operative, aside from the bomb squig, of course, that operative can be set up with a conceal order anywhere on the battlefield that is within a triangle of heavy terrain and more than 6 inches from enemy operatives in the enemy drop zone. So what I've been doing with this is I've just been taking the Breacha Boy and
mhm.
setting him up behind like a piece of terrain in the middle of the board that I know he'll be able to punch right through with his breach ability. And it just
Yeah.
being able to have a mid-board threat before the game even starts is awesome.
Um, and I know what some people have been doing with the Breach Away because one of the downsides to that model is that it only has 3 attacks.
Hmm.
I've seen some people give it a Choppa, so that way you actually do get 4 attacks, and the damage is almost the same. It's 4/5 instead of 5/5, and it's you get an extra attack. So,
Yeah, what I've also been seeing people do with that model is giving him the sledgehammer for the
ooh,
4 attacks, hitting on threes, damage 4/4, which is like a step down from the damage 5/5, where you get an extra attack out of it, and then
mhm,
you're still getting and you're getting stun, which is super cool because so it's kind of like
mhm,
it's like a trade-off. You get one more attack. You're still getting the stun because they upgraded the breacher ram to have stun as an
yeah.
ability. Um, and then yeah, you're getting an extra attack, one less bit of damage, but you're still getting that stun keyword. So it's something else.
I do really like the tactic that you're talking about, but the one that I was expecting you to say was actually just a scratch.
Oh yeah, I mean that
That
one's
one is
amazing as well.
yeah, probably one of the best tactical plays in the game, I would say.
Oh yeah, I would say so.
It's just hard to deal with because it's one thing to like say reduce a crit to a normal or whatever, but to just pick and choose one die, like it doesn't have to be a normal attack. It could be a crit and to just throw it away.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll be honest, Shane. This tactic is giving me like old Death Denied vibes
yeah, a
from the
little
old
bit.
edition, right? So I'm gonna read this off to the people. So just to scratch is 1 CP. Use this tactical ploy in the resolve successful hit step of a shooting attack or combat when damage would be inflicted on a friendly commando operative, excluding the commando grot operative, from an attack dice. Ignore the
Yeah,
damage inflicted from that attack dice. Full stop. It's like
yeah,
it's so
it's.
good.
I
You get to
mean,
pick and choose if a model lives or dies. That's so powerful.
and what's annoying about it is you can kind of expect it just about every turn. Like it's that good, and orcs already have 10 wounds. minimum, other than like the grots and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, first of all, 10 wounds is really good.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of things that are able to two shot them. But the fact that when they do get in danger, they can just pop that. Like, I don't even know what you're supposed to do. You just need volume, I guess.
Yeah, there's like no counterplay. Well, like there's no way to interact with that in that moment. What you have to do kind of is if you know you want to kill a model, you're going to have to assume that you're going to have to double up with either some heavy shooting attacks or like melee models.
And yeah,
At least that's the
it's
only thing
tough.
I can think of.
And I think the only other faction other than Greenskins that has this tactic is Sisters. They have Divine Intervention.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's
Sisters
basically the same
definitely,
thing, right?
yeah, I think it is the same thing. Curious about Sisters just based on that. But yeah, I mean, orcs are already pretty tough.
Mm-hmm.
So not sure how much they need it. But they're going to use it every single turn because of how good it is.
Yeah, yeah. So, do we want to talk about their strategic plays now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my favorite is Daka Daka. I just
Yeah,
love that the way that one like pushes through extra hits.
yeah, and it's actually insane when you look at the ability that the Daka Boy and the Rocket Boy have.
Hmm.
The Rocket Boy, if he doesn't move, he gets to reroll all of his hit rolls when he makes a shooting attack, and then the Daka Boy, he just gets to once again reroll all of his shooting attacks if he wants to, just with his I think it's unload shells ability. But this
Hmm.
tactic, Daka Daka Daka, it's 1 CP. Until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly commando operative makes a shooting attack in the roll attack dice step of that shooting attack, if you retain any critical hits, you can select one from your failed hits to be retained as a successful normal hit. So this is just upping those already efficient, high quality shooting models efficiencies and pushing them even further. And it's just
Yep.
so good, turns like 1 and 2.
Hmm. Yeah, it's fantastic. And I mean, their melee ploys too. They aren't bad. Stuff like Wog and I don't know what the other one is for Commandos. I know what the one is for Greenskins. I don't know if it's the same though. But Wog is definitely, I believe Wog is if you get at least two normal hits, you can turn one of them into a crit,
Yep,
right?
yep, that's right. And that's the strategic ploy. And then the uh the uh the combat stratagem or a tactical ploy, I should say. It's called Crump 'em for 1 CP. Use this tac ploy at the end of the firefight phase. Select one friendly commando operative, and it
Oh,
can perform a free fight action. You
yes.
literally
I
have
forgot
fight
about that one.
twice.
That one is disgusting.
It's really, it's
So
really,
good.
really gross. I'm actually mad at myself because I've never had a chance to use this in a game. Or
Oh,
I
I
just,
forgot about
it's
that
just,
completely.
yeah, this is so good. It's, oh, I get to fight again. What?
Yeah. Oh Lord.
Imagine the
Okay.
shock and horror on a Custodes stuck in combat with a power claw knob.
And then of course sh-
I didn't say anything.
the that one CP, that's a strategic, right?
Yep.
It's basically you just get a free dash with every model that's in conceal
Yeah.
and more than 6 inches. Like I don't even
Oh, speaking of,
really, really good.
yeah, speaking of conceal, something we should have mentioned before we even like started talking about this team, is that the Commando's special ability is called Throat Slitters. Uh, and what it is they can perform a charge action while they are concealed, which you don't need me to tell you how good that is.
Yeah, I mean the whole faction is just like it's just you know what it's like? It's like every model on the team has its own free tactical play.
That's exactly what it's like.
It's just like after a while it's like, "Oh, this guy has this rule and this guy does this too." And it's like on top of the fact that they're already good models with
Yeah,
strong weapons and like 10 wounds and amazing ploys, like they all have to have their own special rule.
literally
Uh,
the only two uh, data cards in, excuse me, in this faction that do not have a special rule is your regular commando boys, which I mean they're fine, and the Commando Burna Boy, which should speak which should speak volumes. I wish he had some kind of special ability because then he might be good. But right
Yeah,
now
I
he's just not.
I really don't like the Burna.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, like playing against this team, man, that like with all their special rules and everything, it's like it's like playing against the equivalent of like green skin like Expendables. Like the movie The Expendables,
Yeah.
like all the
Yep.
freaking action heroes and everything. Like that's what this team is like. It's like the A team.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very, very good. And I did want to talk a little bit about, and this is, I need to make, I have an apology that I need to make,
Oh boy, a public apology?
a public apology.
What did you
So,
do?
as our listeners know, the upload
Yeah,
for
don't
the
say
tier
we.
list
Don't
came
say
out.
we. This was all you.
Yeah, the tier list came out, and it's doing really well. I'm glad about all the support. But in the very beginning of the video, I very dismissively said that I wasn't going to bother ranking greenskins, and if I did, they'd probably be low D, top of F maybe. And since then, I got a lot of feedback on that brief comment, and so I looked into greenskins. I even played a couple games with them, and I've definitely I need to make some apologies to the greenskin community.
Oh,
So
jeez.
they are actually quite good. The problem is that they are nowhere near as good as Commandos.
Pale in
But
comparison, yeah.
yeah, but the thing is, they're like I think if I had to re-rank them, I think they would be somewhere near the top of B tier,
Oh, okay.
um, below
And then,
Commandos and stuff.
so
But
where would Commandos be? They're at least A, right?
yeah, I've rearranged it since, but in the video they're B, but they're like A, mid A right now.
Gotcha.
And that might even be too low considering all this nonsense. But um, greenskins are around where I had commandos, I would say. So there's a couple things about them that make them really special. For starters, greenskins have the potential to field a kill team with the most potential wounds in the game, like across the team. So
Oh.
if
Yeah,
you
because they're
do
all 10
two
wounds.
Yeah, if you do 2 boy fire teams with a knob leader, that's 11 models. Um, and that's 113 wounds right there, which is by far the most,
Yeah.
I believe, in the game. I mean, demons come kind of close, but they're still not quite there. You've got all these 10 wound guys. I mean, it's just like with commandos, they just don't have their own crazy rolls on each model. But there are things that make them different from commandos. They have some things that commandos don't have. The biggest to me is that if you run the 2 boy fire teams, you can have a rocket launcher on each of those fire teams, and you can give the knob a combi rocket to go with his melee weapon.
Ooh, okay.
So you can have up to 3 rockets on a kill team, which is not something you can do with commandos.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give the rockets the targeting thing to make it 4-up ballistic skill, then it's actually pretty good because
Yeah.
that Daka Daka ploy that commandos have, greenskins also have it. So you're actually getting pretty reliable, strong, like semi-accurate AP1 shooting. On top of that, I mean, they don't have dynamite. They do have uh, boss pull, which they can give the commando, or not the commando, but any of the knobs,
Yeah.
which makes the knob have APL3, which is pretty nice. You can run your boys with shooters, which with Daka Daka, if you're giving them, say, like I wouldn't put a targeting thing on it. I don't think that's worth 3 points, but like with the drum mags for 2 points,
Yeah.
you can give your shooters ceaseless, which is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, well, it's only pretty good if you're shooting it with ceaseless and with Daka Daka Daka,
Yeah.
and if you're up against something with, say, like a bad armor save. All this is pretty makes for a pretty strong team. Like you have the most wounds possible in the game. You've got the potential to run a lot of pretty good shooting options with AP, And on top of it, they actually do get just a scratch. So that amazing ploy where you just ignore a die, you can actually use that with greenskins as well. And as far as their shooting goes, they have more DECA, which I don't think commandos have. So if you
No.
completely whiff with your shooting, 1 CP, you just try again.
Yep.
Um, and this is all like pretty strong, honestly. And they have the specialist kill team as well, which you can run either Burnas or Ludas. I would not run Burnas. And as far as Ludas go, I'm not really sure what to think about them quite yet. They do a lot of damage. I think it's like damage 4-6 with 5 shots.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're using those, you kind of have to use it with a targeting thing,
Yep.
and then just like play against something that doesn't have good armor saves and just like put a bunch of damage through. I can see that being pretty good. But yeah, I mean the two boy fire teams with all the rockets and stuff, that's a pretty good kill team. And I vastly underestimated them, I think.
Yeah, no, they sound good. In a straight up fight, who wins, the commando kill team or the greenskin kill team?
I th- I mean I think that the commandos are probably better, but I mean even the commandos don't have as many wounds because I mean their best team is probably gonna have the grot and they've got one less body, so you're probably not even breaking 100 wounds.
Yeah.
Um, the rockets are nice for the greenskins, but it's like the commandos have like the sniper boy and all this stuff, and you don't really need AP against orcs. So I think commandos are the better team in a one-on-one, and commandos definitely have a better, overall matchup spread, I would say. But
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, 10 wounds is such a good body.
It is
That's
so
hard.
good. Can you elaborate a little bit as to why 10 wounds is so good? Cuz like most people would look at orcs and it's like, well, orcs die cuz they have only 5 up saves for most of their models.
Yeah, I mean, it's really so. Like, you look at a 9 wound model, a lot of things like a solid, good melee model is going to have damage 4 or 5. So damage 4 or 5, basically, if you're up against a 9 wound model, you need to get a crit, at least one crit, if you want to kill them in 2 hits.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of things that can kill an orc in 2 hits. I mean, you're basically those 4 or 5 models are hoping they get 2 crits, which at that point they're actually just kind of like hoping. Like the math doesn't really support them winning that. So unless you're running like a power fist, that's going to do well against orcs, but any team with a power fist is only going to have one. So the only things that are really consistently decent against orcs are like power weapons, power fists, and for the most part, teams that have those aren't going to have more than one. And if they do, it's like a really elite team that has different problems. So, and I mean, even if you can kill them in 2 hits, which isn't going to happen a lot, they can just use just a scratch. And then suddenly the whole tide is in their favor.
Yep.
So,
The
10 wounds is
green
really good.
tide.
Yeah. Set that one up for you.
Yep. Roll tide. Okay. So that's your orc apology video.
Yeah, I had to. I couldn't just leave that out there. Um, But yeah, speaking of the tier list, obviously anybody that watched the tier list knows that I was just me talking in that video. And Ryan, I haven't actually gotten the chance to talk to you about the tier list. I know you've watched it, obviously.
Yeah.
So like, what are some of your thoughts? What do you got for me?
Oh,
Because
well, I
I'll
mean,
tell you
like,
what.
before even like we saw like the Warhammer World results, like I knew you had underrated the Commandos
Okay.
for sure. Like the way I was running Commandos, like the first couple games, I was just running them with just like 5 choppas on models that like didn't have a good melee weapon, and like I was winning games like handedly.
Hmm.
So I'm just like, if this is like, I'm not even going deep with the equipment and the ploys and everything, and I'm just like winning games. Like this team is amazing. But yeah, that was the one thing that stood out to me. Um, people were I think I might be with the people on this one, Shane, when I say Grey Knights might have been like low C at the very least.
Okay. All the Grey Knight stuff, I just want to talk about that. I'm glad you brought that up. All the Grey Knight, the reactions to the Grey Knight placement has actually it's fueled me, and I want to double down.
Ooh.
And Grey Knights,
I love it.
I think Grey Knights suck. I think they stink, and I think they walk around with diapers and big full diapers. That's
Well,
really it.
they do walk around in baby carriers sometimes, so I mean, you're probably not far off.
No, I don't know. I just the Grey Knights are like, I just don't see anything. They're like Grey Knights last edition. I mean, they play different. Obviously, it's a very different game, but it's just like last edition where I think that they are easy to play. Like I think you can play them for the first time and like stomp somebody because they're very easy, they're simple, they're digestible, they're easy to build, like in terms
Uh-huh.
of like list building because what are your choices?
Yeah.
Stormbolter, power weapon. Maybe you'll run the falchions instead of the power weapon. I don't know, but that's it, right?
Yeah.
So you get those things. You take the gunners, you throw them in the garbage because the gunners suck, and you say, "I've got 5 guys with 11 wounds apiece." Well, the leader has 12, and I'm going to do the same thing every turn of every game. I'm going to spend 1 CP on bolter discipline, and I'm going to shoot my storm bolters, and that's it. Because you can't really get in too much of a fight with melee because you've only got 5 guys with barely any wounds. So any team that has a lot of melee bodies, you better hope you're getting a lot of shots off on them. And I think once you start going up against better players, people are going to learn, okay, don't let Grey Knights shoot me. And they're going to start using heavy cover more, I think, optimally in the matchup. And I don't know. I mean, I just don't see like you're either trading shots with something that probably has AP or you're trying to shoot something off the board that is a melee team. And if they get to you, it starts to get really dicey. That's how I see it because they have these really strong melee weapons, but every time you fight a melee in this game, you're taking damage back. Like even if melee is going well for you and you're two-shotting everything, you're probably getting hit back for 4 or 5 a lot of the time,
Yeah.
unless you're fighting like a non-melee team at all, like you're fighting against guard or tower or something, and
Mhm.
then they'll hit you for like 2 or 3, and that's a good situation for Grey Knights, but it doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
I don't know, and like their ploys are like let me like here's some of the stuff that people are talking about. So um, obviously, bolter discipline. This is a one trick pony. This is what the team is. They're bolter discipline with storm bolters, and they're going to do it every single turn, every single game. It's going to be the same exact thing every time because this team is really boring, and that's it.
I love
They
how
have
combative we've become with our audience. This is great.
Tide of Shadows. So Tide of Shadows. This is kind of like Domino Field that Harlequin's got. Um, but here's the situation that you're using Tide of Shadows. It's situations where you don't want to shoot, right? Because you're in conceal. And I think right off the bat, if you're in a position with Grey Knights where you're like abandoning a firefight from the get go and like hedging everything on melee, there, like I said, like Tau guard. Outside of that, that is not a good situation for you to be in because okay, well you're gonna get in like a big fight with like cults with like acolyte hybrids. There's 8 of them minimum, and each one of them can one shot your Grey Knight. And I just don't get it. And as far as other elite teams, I already went over this in the video, but they have no armor piercing across the faction. And I know you can just storm bolters go burr. I get it, but you try playing against it. Like, I mean, I don't even think like the 6 Tac Marine. I don't think that's a good matchup for Grey Knights because they've got a missile launcher, they've got plasma, and I mean you can pop Tide of Shadows and walk up the board and go for melee. But I don't know. I mean, now we're talking about can they beat this F tier team?
Yeah.
And I don't see it. I really don't see it. The in my opinion, the psychic powers are really underwhelming. Um, Armored Resilience doesn't actually do much for you. If Armored Resilience was like an invuln, then that would be pretty interesting. But it improves their save by 1. So they're already good with their save. Like they have a 3-up save. You make it a 2-up, that's good, but it's not solving any problems that the faction has, right? Hammerhand, that's pretty niche. Now you're one-shotting guardsmen. Hooray, right? Because your Grey
Congratulations.
Knights are struggling against guardsmen and melee.
Yeah, for sure.
Astrolabe is good. And you know what? You're probably going to do it 90% of the time because you're going to go ahead, you're going to hit Bolter Discipline, you're going to aim your Storm Bolters, you're going to hope that your opponent didn't bring any armor piercing, which they probably did.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know. I'm going to die on this hill.
Okay. Don't test them. So the other thing, Shane, with the tier list was I was getting flashbacks to the last tier list we made, where I'm pretty sure you ranked Death Guard in D in that one as well, and that resulted in people walking up to you at ACO without introducing themselves at all and saying you're full of shit for where you put Death Guard on the tier list.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Death Guard. Yeah, that was the other one that people were talking about. It was Grey Knights and Death Guard. Death Guard, I don't really get. Like, I don't. I mean, they're top of D. I don't know what people want from Death Guard. Like, they're not that good.
Yeah, it's because like the Poxwalkers, like you said in the tier list video, like yeah, 5-up invulnerable save or not 5-up invulnerable save, 5-up feel no pain is good, but the models they just suck. They just suck,
Yeah.
and then the 3 Marines that you're pairing them with is just not going to be enough to win you most games.
I don't think I would want to play Thousand Suns against, or not Thousand Suns, Death Guard against any of the teams in C or B. Like, obviously not A and S, but like, I did say in that video that I think they're the third. Maybe I didn't say this. I think they're a pretty good elite team. Like, if you run 5 Plague Marines, um, and they actually do have armor piercing. The problem with the team is their basic Plague Marines um, are really bad in melee. So you have to kind of choose between whether you want good shooting or good melee. And you can't really, you can kind of have both where you'll have like one gunner with a plasma, and then you'll have the fighter and the champ, and then you've got, the icon, and then you've got this useless guy. Um, and all they really do is just survive because they do survive for a really long time. I mean, I can see maybe putting them in like the back of C, but I mean, is there really that much of a difference? They're still ahead of the
Yeah,
same factions and
yeah.
behind the same factions. I just don't. I don't know. Maybe they're at the back of C. Maybe that's a better representation. But Poxwalkers are pretty bad. Like the other Chaos teams are very similar, I think. Um, with Thousand Suns, Zangors are way better than Poxwalkers. With Heretics, first of all, they get 6 Marines for no reason. And then I think Cultists are better than Poxwalkers too. So I don't know. I wouldn't want to play Death Guard into like guard, like regular Imperial Guard or Vet Guard. That doesn't sound like a good matchup to me.
Yeah.
Same for Forge World and stuff, and definitely not Necrons. But yeah, I mean, I think they're all right, and I think there's probably still stuff to figure out with the faction, but I think most of it starts and ends with Plague Marines.
Yeah. So is there anything else in the tier list that you want to talk about?
What were people saying? Because I feel like there was a lot of stuff that
People
people were
were
saying.
people were saying a lot of things in the tier list. Like I still have not yet gone through all of the comments yet in the YouTube video. Most of them it looks like to me at first glance were like in agreement
Yeah,
with I
I
think
mean,
for the most part you kind of hit it spot on.
I will say because this is the first episode where I've said this at the beginning, but like, and it shouldn't be said. Um, shouldn't need to be said, but like, this is just all my opinion. Like, it's not law. Like, nobody's. This is not, and it means nothing really. Um, because somebody will probably take one of these factions in C or D, probably not F, but one of these factions and top four a tournament. You can do that with any of these guys, even the F tier teams. And I went on a whole tangent about that, about how I feel like the F tier in this edition is a lot friendlier and forgiving than the F tier in last edition, where it was just dumpster, bottom of the barrel trash with like Kroot and Star Striders. Um, I think that Space Marines and Asuryani in this edition are the worst teams, but not by much. And they don't scream like awful to me. What do you think about, like, was there anything other than some people said that I had um, demons too? I was hoping that people wouldn't freak out too much about Comorites being up there,
Oh,
and
but
it
they
doesn't seem
did.
like
But they did, Shane.
did people, because I didn't see anything. I felt like Comorites was well received. But
I can't remember if the comments were on the Reddit post or on the YouTube video itself. But it was basically like somebody asked like, what the heck Comrade team is he talking about? Because I don't know if he just like didn't hear you correctly or anything, but like you were talking about a team that mixes uh, a Cabalite fire team for the good shooting with a witch, or excuse me, a fire team, yeah, and a witch kill fire team in the same kill team. That way you get the best shooting that the faction has to offer paired with the best melee that the faction has to offer. And the guy in the commenting was like, "Are you just talking about 10 witches?" And it's like, no, no, it's not 10 witches. It's not 10 Comorites. It's two of them mixed.
yeah, the crazy part about that team is it's like everything is a threat, because
Yeah,
you've got
there's no filler in that team.
yeah, like you've got the splinter cannon and the blaster, and then you've got the Hecatrix, and you've got two witch fighters. So that's 5 out of your 10 models right out the gate are threats. And then those three witches, or those two witches, and like some of the Cabalites that don't have stuff, you give some of them plasma grenades. Now they're threats outside of like what they're normally capable of. And like you give the splinter cannon relentless, and it's just everything has a target on its back. And after a while, it's like, what do I even deal with? There's just so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, that it's literally threat overload is the
Yeah.
issue with it, and they all move fast, or they have the ability to move fast. Um,
Yeah.
and then just abusing agile gladiators and power from pain. That's what the tactical ploy or
Yeah.
the ploy is called, right? Yeah,
Yep.
just abusing those two. Like literally, just don't even think. Just one of those two every turn, or both. Um, it yeah, potent potent team. They just haven't had a big showing yet.
Yeah, they will. Someone will do it.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember seeing them when they first came out and thinking like, oh, this looks like the most boring possible, because it's just witches and Cabalites coming from, Rex and Mandrakes and Incubi and Grotesques. And now it's like, oh, this is all they have? Lame. But they are very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. That's just that's just how I see the meta right now. And for what it's worth, I think the other team I had up there was Harlequins. And on the weekend of Warhammer World, there was a tournament over here on the East Coast where first and second place were Harlequins. Um, so that's definitely a thing. I think Harlequins are really strong. That team is just something, man. I
It sure is. It's
just a
like
bunch
every
of
one of those
junkies.
models is just a freaking fighter jet.
I did want to have a little side tangent. Let's move on from the tier list. I think everything that we need to say has been
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
Um, what are your thoughts on elite teams so far in this game,
Ooh, buddy. All right. Um, yeah, I think elite teams got the short end of the stick right now.
other than Custodes?
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. That goes without saying. They're S tier.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. It's weird. 'Cause some of the teams it's like you get You have like 5 or 6 bodies, and you either are feasting or famine with the weapon selection. Like in my head, I'm just thinking like Astartes and Traitor Astartes right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what most everyone plays. Because it's like, if you take any of the Primaris fire teams, or like, or I guess I should say kill team. If you take any of the Primaris kill teams, you are severely limiting yourself with what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to not your equipment, but like your lethality, you know? Um,
Mm-hmm.
like I think out of that group, that subset, like the infiltrators, I think could have some play. And then assault intercessors, I think, are the best of the worst at a face value. Um, and then Heretic Astartes are good, but they just can't compete with factions like Commandos, where each one of those models has like 10 to 13 wounds. They have all these sorts of movement shenanigans, and it's like what do you do? They're really hamstrung by the lack of models that they have and how lethal this game is, I think. Like you can't afford to get unlucky with an elite team.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I don't think you can get unlucky, really. Um, and I think, like we said, aside from Talons, and to some extent, I think Heretic Astartes with the 6 Marines is pretty good. But
Mhm.
um, I do feel like a lot of the 5 model elite teams are not in a great spot right now. Stuff like Deathwatch, Grey Knights, most of the Marines. It's a shame for me personally because I recently started playing elite teams a little bit more, just to like get a feel for them. Because when I started,
You're playing demons,
I
like
was just playing demons
basically
all the time,
hordes, yeah. You
and
yeah, you were telling me that you're like enjoying playing elite teams more, right? Like anything with like
yeah,
3 APL.
yeah, I have so much. I've learned I have so much more fun
Yeah.
playing like Deathwatch or like Assault Intercessors, and like I don't know. Even though those teams are worse and I lose more with them, I have a lot more fun playing them than I do something like Demons, where I'm just constantly picking my models up and and just like overwhelming and because honestly, it's like the cognitive load of playing something like Demons where so something like Guard or like if you're running a bunch of cultists with heretics, uh yeah, that's a lot of models, but those are group activation too. So like you're moving one and then moving another and then your opponent goes. Whereas and that actually the pace of the game is a lot faster when you're doing that.
Mhm.
Whereas with demons, you've got 12 models and they're all GA1 and it's such a slog and it just takes forever. And the team is good, but I mean, I play one game of that and I get like exhausted mentally and I can't imagine doing a whole tournament of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I play Death Watch or something and like I'll play and I'll lose. Yeah, like it'll be a close game, but I'll lose and I'm like, "Oh man, that was actually pretty fun. I want to play again and I want to like sharpen it
Yeah.
because it does that the one thing I'll say is even though I think they're overall like kind of underpowered, elite teams in this edition, like Marines, especially like I've been playing a lot of assault intercessors and like the TTS tournaments, like ringing in.
Mhm.
Um and it feels like you're playing Marines. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Like it feels fluffy. Like each of my guys feel really strong and impactful. And it's like when I lose one, it's such a blow. And I don't know, maybe they should have 6 bodies, or maybe like it shouldn't be so easy to kill them or something. I don't know. But they are so satisfying, I feel. And I feel like a lot of people are playing their one faction and sticking to it. And I'm telling you, everybody, if you have not tried playing an elite team in this game, give it a try because it's so much fun. Um, my most positive experiences so far playing the game have been have been running these kinds of teams. And as somebody that wants to go to tournaments and like would aspire to do well, I'm really battling with that because I want to play. Like I want to pull up to a tournament with Deathwatch or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how good of an idea that actually is. So I don't know. I don't know what my option is. Maybe I need to look at Heretics because I think they're probably the best. I mean, I don't want to play. I really don't want to play Talons. So I mean, throw that out the window. But Heretics seem pretty good. They got the 6 guys.
I love the Heretics. They're my favorite elite team to play right now.
Yeah. So like with in the CPTS, the Command Point Tournament Series that we've been doing, we did the second month today. So in both months, I've played Assault Intercessors in it, just filling in because we had an odd number. And I figured I picked the most one note, like simple team. There's no list building.
And now you've become a master of the assault intercessors.
I feel like I'm getting pretty good with them. So in the first month, I went 1-2. I won in a Space Marine mirror match, and then I lost to Drakari, and then I lost to someone. I don't even remember what else I lost to. But I was Talons. I lost in a really close game to Talons with
Yeah,
Assault.
you texted me that day. You're like, I almost beat Talons with assault intercessors. I'm like, you did what?
Yeah. And then today I played another one and I won against Deathwatch. And then I played against the winner of the event today. It was his sensor lock on Discord. And he was running Heretic Astartes, which to me, I see Heretic Astartes as like while I'm running Space Marines, that looks like a death sentence to me because it's just another elite team and they have another body. So it's like I'm immediately like it's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But I tied that game and I came out of it 8-8 and it was so close. Like he could have done one or two things to beat me. I could have done one or two things to beat him, and just we ended up tying. And then in my third game, I went up against Warp Coven, the new faction. It was my first time playing against them, and they're wacky. And that was such a close game. Like the Assault Intercessors, man, you get what you put in. And I feel
Yeah.
like I'm fighting tooth and nail just to have close games. But it's so satisfying. Like I'm just having
Yeah.
such a blast.
You're all about the grind right now, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it's an easier load on my brain to play
Yeah.
Assault Intercessors compared to like demons or like greenskins even. Um,
So
so it
so
is pretty fun.
so let's go further down this tangent actually because I'm just like selfishly curious. What kind of equipment have you been giving the assault intercessors?
So every game I've played so far, I have done 3 crack grenades. Um, but I've also like today, for instance, and the last time for the most part, I've been mostly playing against elite teams. I think if I was going against like a horde, I would probably go 2 frags, 2 cracks.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
because I thought about doing 5 frags, but then I thought like you're only taking the frag for blast, right? And how many big blast plays are you expecting to get in any given game?
Not
Like one
very
or
many. Literally like
yeah,
one or
one
two.
yeah, 1 or 2. So I would only take 2 frags and then the crack grenade, like yeah, it's single target, but against like a horde team, like a crack grenade, that's just a dead enemy model. You're just
Yep.
going to kill something. And that's
Yeah.
pretty invaluable. Um and really outside of that, it's just been because it's funny because everybody knows exactly what I'm taking because I'm coming in with one list. It's not even a roster. It's just the 4 assault intercessors and then the leader with the power fist and plasma pistol. Um, and really just abusing the cracks when I can because that's like my only ranged for the most part. I mean, I have the bolt pistols, which are pretty good because they have P1. But just trying. What's nice is they actually have so many wounds. They have like 13 wounds apiece, which
Oh,
is
okay.
yeah, it's crazy. So, like in the game against Warp Coven today, I had multiple guys at one point survive like a fight with 1 wound remaining. Like my opponent tried to kill them and they just barely couldn't. And in both instances, that guy with like on one side of the table, like I had a guy on an objective and he had like 10 wounds or maybe even 13. And a Zangor walks up onto his objective, and then a sorcerer walks up onto his objective, and the sorcerer hits him with with the warp flame pistol and basically drops him down to 1 wound remaining.
Wow.
And he's barely alive. And my opponent's like, ugh, but whatever. He's got 1 wound, right? They can deal with that. That guy with his 1 wound remaining, having survived, he tossed his crack grenade at the sorcerer, brought him down to like 5 wounds, charged and killed the sorcerer, and then the next turn, with his 1 wound remaining still, used his bolt pistol and one shot the Zangor on the objective. So like that's a 1 wound remaining model that just basically killed 2 guys that were full wounds right next to him.
What an
Yeah,
absolute hero of the
and that yeah.
Imperium. Wow.
And then the other thing is like I had a guy like fight and survive with like 6 wounds, and then he got countercharged by another Zangor, and that fight between that guy with 6 wounds remaining and the Zangor ended up being a wash, and my guy again lived with 1 wound, and he had already been activated. But the magic of this was like this was my sergeant, so he's got the plasma pistol.
Yeah.
Next turn, my opponent finishes him off, but by the time next turn comes around, he's a readied model again, which means I can use only in death. And then I pop only in death, and he falls back, and he just uses his plasma pistol, and he just deletes something. So it's like being able to survive just a little bit more, I think really actually makes assault intercessors really interesting. And just that on top of like using crack grenades whenever you can, and just like picking your battles. They're definitely you have to really fight and like claw to keep up, because they are pretty like one note. But like earlier I said that Grey Knights are boring, and I know that might sound silly because assault intercessors are like they have even less stuff, it seems.
Yeah.
But Grey Knights, you know what you're doing every game. It's the same exact thing. Assault intercessors, you kind of, as silly as it sounds, you have to get creative because it's like you have so little to work with that it's like I don't know. It's like throwing somebody into like a survival game, and it's just like those games where you start and you just have no clothes, no weapons, and it's just like
Yeah.
go live. It's kind of like that.
I
And
love it.
I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. So I don't know, something about like maybe I'm a masochist, but assault
Definitely,
intercessors.
dude. You just compared playing assault intercessors to like playing Rust on a Russian server. Like that sounds horrible, but this is all great news. I really wanted an excuse to paint up some assault intercessors as some Black Templars.
Oh, do it. And
So I'm stoked for that.
honestly too, I think they're like almost good. I know
They're
they're F tier.
almost good.
I think they're probably the best space other than Deathwatch. I think they're the best Space Marine fire team, and they're like almost good. Like if there was like 1 or 2 things changed, like I've heard some people say like, "Oh, give Marines an extra body." Like if you gave Assault Intercessors an extra body, holy crap, that would actually be a legit team, I think. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I just really like playing them.
All
And yeah,
right,
that's the other
cool.
thing too. It's like all these people getting mad at me about, putting certain teams low. It's like I actually love some of these low tier teams more than the more than the top tier teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that about wraps it up.
Thank you guys once again for tuning into this episode of the Command Point podcast. It's not episode 69. I'm sorry I misled you earlier. If you like what you're listening to, feel free to leave a rating for us on whatever podcast app you're listening to. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and if you want to further support us, come check out what we have on offer for our Patreon supporters. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you, and we'll see you again in the next one.